Welcome to Surrender School.
At Surrender School. At Surrender School, we recover. Our mission is to share 12-step and other supportive recovery solutions with those who want a healthy relationship with food. We're not an official 12-step meeting, but we do adhere to the spirit of the traditions. If you'd like to donate, Surrender School it has at the bottom of their website's front page, they have a donate button. And if it's helped your recovery, please donate. If you'd also like to help out or volunteer at Surrender Schools, there's a lot of opportunities to help out in any area that you're passionate about. It's always fun to work doing something that you're passionate about. You can contact Lori, and also you can contact me. I'll have my phone number at the very end, and then I will pass that information on to the right person. And then this is a WhatsApp QR code. So if you take your phone and you open up the camera and you let it kind of do its box in there, you just click there and it takes you to the WhatsApp group, or probably a link to, if you don't have that, you can actually get that. So this is 12 steps in 12 weeks, and we are at week 9. And the agenda is prayers, reading my experience with the steps, writing for 5 minutes. We will end at 1 p.m., which is 11, not is that right? 9, 10.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. It's another time, y'all's time. And oh, there it is. I wrote it. I knew I wasn't capable of remembering that on my own. 11 p.m. And we have some readings today. We're going to be reading from the big book, the 12 and 12, and that's the AA 12 and 12, and then the OA 12 and 12 on the set aside prayer. And I'm going to go ahead and try to get grounded through my sit bones. I'm going to try to just get some energy in my hands and just take some breaths. I don't think I've honestly felt my breath all day long. Oh, whew, that was nice. So, the set aside prayer: God, today help me set aside everything I think I know about you, everything I think I know about myself, everything I think I know about others, and everything I think I know about my own recovery. So I may have an open mind and a new experience with all these things. Please help me see the truth. And this serenity prayer: God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Thy will, not mine, be done. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and welcome everyone. We are on step 9. I wanted to get us started in the OA 12 and 12. Step 9 is made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. And the spiritual principle is love. And on my book, I have that this is freedom from bondage to myself and others. And have y'all ever been in a relationship where you just feel tethered to someone, where there's this invisible tethering and you just don't feel like you can get free? And it may change from childhood to young adulthood to, middle age to, it just changes, but there still feels that deep tethering. And step 9 is an opportunity to free ourselves from bondage to ourselves, but then to others. So, for many members of Overeaters Anonymous, step 9 proves to be the most surprising of the 12. Before we do the step, most of us dread the thought of going to each person we've harmed, frankly, acknowledging our faults, and taking direct action to remedy the damage we have done or repay the losses we have caused. After making amends, however, those of us who dreaded step 9 the most are eager to share the results. This step has freed us from the shackles of our past mistakes in a miraculous way. Our lives are changed, our broken relationships mended, and the resentment that poisoned our heart for years is washed away. So, this is a surprise, like, this proves to be the most surprising of the 12 steps. And I really like that. Like, you think that there's going to be something bad that happens, but instead, what ends up happening is some freedom that you never thought that you would ever be able to have. So, I'm going to go ahead and read from the big book. So, last week we did step 8, but it seems to me, this may not be the truth, but it seems to me that steps 8 and 9 are so lumped together in the big book that it's hard for me to separate one from the other. And I'm going to read the paragraph I read last week again, which is on page 77. And this is more kind of step 8. But so starting on 77 in the big book, um, we might, and this is in the middle of the paragraph, but we might prejudice them. At the moment, we are trying to put our lives in order. But this is not an end to itself. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. It is seldom wise to approach an individual who still smarts from our injustice to him and announce that we have gone religious. In the prize ring, this would be called leading with the chin. Why lay ourselves open to being branded fanatics or religious bores? We may kill a future opportunity to carry a beneficial message, but our man is sure to be impressed with a sincere desire to set right the wrong. He is going to be more interested in a demonstration of goodwill than in our talk of spiritual discoveries. I like how we talk about like making living amends. Um, that's kind of a demonstration of goodwill. Something somebody said in a meeting that I wrote down is that maybe we don't have someone right now in our list of people, or maybe we're really just not willing. I'm not willing. Maybe there is somebody, there's an ex or something that has smarted you for many, many, many years, and you're not willing to go dig them up and say that. They said, smile at someone, make a phone call, email someone, and make living amends. And I really find that that sometimes might be gentler on our souls. If somebody has really harmed us and we're not in a position, or maybe that person might not even be alive anymore. They might not be there to say sorry to. So we don't use this as an excuse for shying away from the subject of God. When it will serve any good purpose, we are willing to announce our convictions with tact and common sense. The question of how to approach the man we hated will arise. It may be he has done us more harm than we have done him. And though we may have acquired a better attitude towards him, we're still not too keen about admitting our faults. Nevertheless, with a person we dislike, we take the bit in our teeth. It is harder to go to an enemy than a friend, but we find it much more beneficial to us. We go to him in a helpful and forgiving spirit, confessing our former ill feeling and expressing our regret. And somebody said that to forgive is an action we take to free ourselves from the pain that we have been carrying. So, again, how willing do we want to be rid of this? Somebody said something really great one time, that they know someone that they need to make an amends to is it if it just the little thought pops up. So, if you're driving down the road and you have that little thought of that person or that situation, and it's this thing that keeps recurringly coming up, well, maybe that's when I can be willing. And I don't know if I told you this last week, but what I generally do when I think I need to make an amends to somebody is I go deep into prayer and meditation and ask, okay, is this an amends that I need to seek out the person? Is this an amends that I need to smile at somebody that I need to make some amends. Is it an email, a phone call? What kind of amends is it? One time I had someone that came up and came up and came up. They were somebody that I had no personal connection with anymore, and it would have been odd for me to call her. So I just prayed and I said, "Hey, this is where the rubber meets the road. I mean, this is where if you want me to make an amends to her, then I'm going to need her to show up." And if she didn't show up 2 weeks later, I mean, I think that's the power of prayer. So she did end up showing up, and she ended up behaving in exactly the same way that I thought I needed to make an amends for. And I want y'all to hear that. Like, she had not changed. I was able to say sorry. I was able to say sorry. I was able to say that her relationship, especially things that she did, were really kind and nice. But I also realized that she had not changed at all. And it was a very spiritual awakening for me, that I was able to see her, I was able to see that behavior, and then I was able to be like, okay, another situation is when a coworker had out of the blue, I'd worked with him for a couple of years, and out of the blue he had just said, I have fallen in love with you. And I was just horrified because I was really close to him. I felt like we were really, really, really good coworkers, and that was it. I felt like we were great coworkers. And he had said that, and I felt really awful and very guilty about it. I felt very much like, what could I have done? And he left the job. And again, I had just been, it's not, how is that a living amends? I mean, how is that spiritually enlightened to go to someone 2 years later and, text them they're married? That's not, to me, that for me, for someone else, y'all can do what y'all want to, but for me, absolutely not. I was not going to reach out. I was not going to make contact. That would be more harmful than it would be helpful. And then lo and behold, I make this prayer to God. I had done some really intense sex work. And I'm saying the work that I did, that I had done some intense step work on sex, about how I use my sexuality to get my needs met, how I feel helpless with men, so I behave certain ways so that they will get things done, like lifting boxes that I don't feel I can lift, and the kind of harm that I have caused in that regard, and the kind of thing how I want to behave later on. You know, there is a 100-pound box, and I have a coworker that is a male and might be able to lift the 100-pound box, and I cannot, because I can't lift a 100-pound box. Um, when I was younger, I had a lot of behaviors that felt like I could get someone to do that. And as I've gotten older, you know what? I'm going to pray about it, and the box is going to have to stay there. Maybe that box is never going to get moved. Maybe I don't have the strength, and that's okay. But I'm not going to be over sexual. I'm not going to flirt. I'm not going to be overly nice. And I'm not going to be, whatever. I'm not going to say, oh, please do that, and I'll cook for you something, or would you like breakfast? And I'm going to give you this, because it just, for me, not for anybody else in this world, for me, it sets up these behaviors. And I've done a lot of work on this. So I did that work on him, and I asked God, okay, I prayed, meditated for many, many months, and I said, okay, all right. I went to, of course, a 9-step workshop where they're like, you must get a hold of the person and you must apologize. And I had really become clear why this man told me he was in love with me. He was married, and, of course, I'm married, and I was very clear why he fell in love with me. And that was, in large part, my responsibility. And I had no reciprocation for that. And so I prayed, okay, if you want me to do it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to. And about 2 months later, he came back to the job. And I used that to say, okay, all right. I could not have believed that. You couldn't have put up the most it. And I just had to say, okay, all right, God puts you here, and I'm going to say sorry, and I'm going to make an amends. And I also said, I will never, ever be alone with you. I will never ask you to do my amends is that I don't care what the circumstances is. I will never, because we had to work a lot in little pairs. I will never be alone with you. I will never ever. If you are here in this room, I'm going to get up, I'm going to go out. I will never be in the break room with you. I will never again and say that I will cook you breakfast or I will make anything for you. That's never going to happen. And and then very quickly, I left that job and I haven't seen him ever since then. But I was willing to do that amends. And I'm not saying that's the right thing at all. I'm not saying that's the right way to do it. I'm just saying for me, if there's somebody that just keeps coming up, for me, it's a really good idea to pray and to say, okay, all right, mama, you just keep the same thing just keeps happening, mama. I keep getting into this situation. And you know what? Since that happened, guess what? That situation's not ever happened again. That has not, and I kept just getting myself into similar things, and that has not happened again. So, okay, keep reading. And then, this is a powerful part of that point. It says, somebody told me, I took a big book study, and they said, would you be willing to say, this is because I am a compulsive overeater and I want to get recovery? And that was what I told this man. I said, I want you to, which I had told him I was in OA a long time ago, but I was like, I am a compulsive overeater and I want recovery. I want to change my relationships with people. I don't want to continue causing harm. I don't want to continue going places and causing distrust. And I don't want to continue to cause problems in my relationship at work. This is because I am a compulsive overeater and I do want recovery. And yeah, and it would be funny if, he pops back in my life in 2 weeks. And that, I think there's a sense of humor sometimes in the way things work. If I'm sitting here saying, oh, that problem is all gone and that was handled and resolved well. And then, there's another aspect of that too. So, 77. Under no condition do we criticize such a person or argue. Simply, we tell him that we will never get over drinking until we have done our utmost to straighten out our past. We are there to sweep off our side of the street, realizing that nothing worthwhile can be accomplished until we do so. Never trying to tell him what he should do. His faults are not discussed. We stick to our own. If our manner is calm, frank, and open, we will be gratified with the result. Yeah, that we stick to our own side of the street. And sometimes that's the beauty, is we get really deep into it. I mean, that's a perfect example, right? Where you're out of the blue working at a job with somebody you feel like is a friend. They automatically sideswipe you and say, I'm in love with you. I want to leave my wife. Or he didn't say that, but I'm in love with you. And I can't really see my part of it. But after a lot of OA meetings or recovery meetings, and after a lot of this work, you finally say, oh, wait, wait. Like the big book says, you got the ball rolling. You got the ball rolling. In 9 cases out of 10, the unexpected happens. Sometimes the man we're calling upon admits his own fault. So feuds of years standing melt away in an hour. Rarely do we fail to make satisfactory progress. Our former enemies sometimes praise what we are doing and wish us well. Occasionally, they will offer assistance. It should not matter, however, if someone does throw us out of his office. We have made our demonstration, done our part. It's water over the dam. And I think that this is important because I'm such a big proponent on the fact that I came to OA with no self-esteem, and anything that requires my self-esteem to be beat is just maybe. And I think it's also like it's the paradox that for some people maybe they do need that, but I didn't really need a lot of myself, the what was left of my self-esteem, to be gone. So it says we really need to, if they praise you, wonderful, that's great. If they say, you know what, you are the worst person I've ever met, and you have ruined my life, and you are somebody who deserves to be a compulsive eater because of your behavior, then that needs to fall in the same. The praise needs to be at the same for we're allowing them to have their own feelings. We're allowing them to have their own feelings about this. The other thing I really wanted to be clear on when taking the ninth this ninth step is, one of somebody said this one time, is that taking the ninth step also helps me in my daily practice, because I do understand that if I do a certain behavior, I'm gonna end up having to make a ninth step. So it kind of stops me from making behaviors that I know I'm going to end up like, yep, if I continue doing this with my friend, I'm going to end up having to make an so I'm going to go ahead and just back off, and I'm not going to take that road that's going to require me to do a ninth step. Most alcoholics owe money. We do not dodge our creditors, telling them what they are trying to do. We make no bones about our drinking. They usually know it anyway, whether we think so or not. Nor are we afraid of disclosing our alcoholism on the theory it will cause financial harm. Approached in this way, the most ruthless creditor will sometimes surprise us. Arranging the best deal, we can let these people know we're sorry. Our drinking has made us slow to pay. We must lose our fear of creditors no matter how far we have to go, for we're liable to drink if we're afraid to face them. And I'll say that my therapist actually, one time, she actually said the exact opposite of this. The person that I she said, I had made the mention that, yeah, I'll go to, my boss and say I'm a compulsive eater. And she's like, is that a good idea? You don't really want to go to your employers and tell them you're an addict. And I think that it was just a good way to look at both sides of the story. And so I think, again, prayer, meditation, working the 12 steps on that. Do you go to we used to have a huge refrigerator that there was a big sign, do not eat other people's food in this refrigerator. I mean, who needs a sign? We all have known, you don't need to be stealing food in people's refrigerators. And I didn't do that, but let's say I had stolen a lot of people's food in the refrigerator. Then that's kind of where you might need to go with a trusted counselor, a trusted sponsor, a trusted friend. You might need to pray, work your own steps about, hey, how do I make amends to that person? How do I reimburse them payment? Maybe I don't even know. Maybe I've been stealing food from the refrigerator for years and years. Like, really, instead of going directly to another human being to try to solve that, because what I can do is I can get so intensely occupied with the feelings, and all the feelings are like a ball to me, and all I want to do is just get rid of the ball. Oh, okay, all right, go and tell people and don't dodge and say you're an alcoholic. Okay, whatever, all right, take the ball here, take it, instead of really getting with source, which the programs that we have are really designed to get us to source. So instead of really getting to source, really praying about it and saying, okay, what is the next action? Not just to eliminate the guilt, but really to heal this from me and other people. Um, and so then perhaps we've committed a criminal offense, would might land us in jail if we're known to the authorities. We may be in our accounts and unable to make good. We've already admitted this in confidence to another person, but we're sure we would be imprisoned or lose our job if we were known. Maybe it's only a petty offense, such as padding the expense accounts. Most of us have done that sort of thing. Maybe we're divorced and we've remarried but haven't kept alimony to number one. She's indignant about that and has a warrant out for our arrest. That's a common form of trouble too. And we've all read the big book. On page 80, I love the story about his friend that he has, who, he felt like it would destroy his reputation. He would have no his partner's reputation. They would take away his means of living. What do I do? And so he said, and this is on page 80, after consulting with his wife and partner, he came to the conclusion that it was better to take these risks than to stand before his creator guilty of such ruinous slander. So, he had obviously gone and looked at this in every angle and what happened. It was a great outcome. And I think that that maybe is such a good point, that like, have you looked at going and making an amends through every angle? Have you sat and gotten uncomfortable, like that pause? Have you sat in the uncomfortableness and let that sink in you and over you and through you? Have you prayed about it? And then, of course, the example on page 80, which is a really scary one, where this man might have gone to prison, and he is now a sobered, recovered, tax paying individual that can be of use to people, and you're going to be locked up in prison. But yeah, this is what he did. And so, yeah, I think that this is really, really, really great reading. And it's, yeah, it's time to get y'all's thoughts on this. And this was the question, and I had fun with this one. So, step 9 is made direct amends to such people and wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. And I don't know, I just liked that way that that's phrased, to make amends and where possible. It didn't say like when possible, but it says where possible. So where do I need to make amends in my life? What is something that just keeps popping up? Just a recurring situation that just keeps popping up. The same situation just keeps appearing in our lives. And you are like, yeah, the number one, the person, what is it? The person that's always there is me. That's not what I'm supposed to say, but okay, I'm going to stop sharing for 5 minutes.
Thanks for recovering with us.